Hi, I'm Brad Roberts from Crash Test Dummies, and may the rock be with you.
Lovely to see you, man. What a pleasure.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, welcome to May
Thanks
the
for
Rock
having
in
me.
Australia. Like it's just a long time probably since you've spoken to anyone in Australia.
It is.
It
It
is.
has been.
Yeah, because we're here because you're headed back next year for the first time since 1992. A long, long time ago. Tell us what people can expect if they come to a Crash Test Dummy show in 2025.
Well, we will be playing all of our old songs off God Shovel His Feet, at least most of the songs off God Shovel His Feet, as well as a sprinkling of other tunes from other records. And that includes a recent song that we put out in 2023
Nice.
called Sacred Alphabet,
Excellent.
which is really going over well live, much to my surprise and to my pleasure, because, of course, people like to hear something they're familiar with. And when we come out and play this new material, I'm always wondering, how's this going to go over?
Mm.
And it goes over great. So we'll be playing that in Australia as well.
Excellent. Can't wait. Do you have a memory, though, of your trip down here in 1992 you can share with us?
Oh, many memories. Uh, Learning how to order coffee. What was it? Flat and
Flat white?
what's that?
A flat white?
Yes, a flat white. I had not heard that term until I came to Australia.
That's great.
Uh, and actually, after we finished touring, I went up north to Queensland and did some sort of touristy things out in the middle of the freaking jungle.
Mm.
And that was fun.
Excellent.
Um, all our shows were a lot of fun. They were on a very small scale, though, because we had only just put out our first record at that time. And although it did extremely well in Canada, it did nothing around the world.
Mm.
So our Australian tour was a small affair.
Yeah, right. It's so funny though that once it took off, and we'll get to that in a minute, you were huge down here, and I don't know why you didn't come back and capitalize on it, or what didn't happen there, and why you never got to come back.
I can tell you exactly why.
Cool.
Um, when when we put out our second record, it was soundly rejected in Canada, but in the United States, the label got behind it and promoted that record like crazy. And
Mm.
that meant me doing a shitload of work because I'm the front man and I was doing all the press. And the amount of press and going to radio stations and singing the song on the radio and doing that over and over and over again. And like, you got to bear in mind, they'd want me to come on the morning show,
Yeah.
right? I'm barely awake. And then I'm up for the day. I can't nap. I
Mm.
just I've never been able to nap. And then they want me to play it like, 9 at night and not be done till 11 and not be anywhere near bed until, 2 in the morning by the time you get to the next town.
Mm.
So I was just exhausted. And when we got to the point where it was time to turn our attention to other markets, as they say in the business, I was just like, I'm not doing it. I've had it. I'm exhausted. You got to let me stop.
Wow.
And so we didn't go to Australia and we
Mm.
didn't go to a number of places, and they were all very pissed off.
Oh, you know what? 33 years later, it's fine. We can do it then.
Uh, well, yeah, as a matter of fact, it's interesting to note, for me at least, that I think it's on on most streaming services, we get the most play from Australian users.
Nice.
It seems to be our world's most vibrant market if you look at streaming numbers.
Excellent. Well, we're
And
looking
in
forward to it.
fact, right now, the tickets have gone on sale, and in some of the shows are already half sold out.
That's
And
amazing.
it, and they just went on sale. We're not even coming there until like March or some damn thing.
Yep.
So I'm very pleased. It's very, couldn't go better.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. Now, in a time when grunge was huge and it was the end of the hair metal era, if you want to call it that, something came along that I'd never heard before, and it was the song, right? I'd never heard anything like that before. It went number one here, like we talked about. What do you remember most about releasing that song and that really made people stand up and take notice of you guys?
Well, we released that song in Canada after having a huge success on our first record in Canada, but nowhere else. And Canada basically said, well, we really don't want anything to do with Crash Test Dummies. It's time to eat our own, which is what Canada likes to do. And so I guess we had just done a little too well on our first record, and that was that. But then in America, people started phoning into radio stations where it was getting a little bit of airplay, not much, and asking, what's that song?
Mm.
And the record company twigged onto that, and they plugged us into the machine. And for the first time, we were a high priority for our record label. And they worked that record until we got to number one. And so I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's exactly what it is. It took off for you, and it's number one around the world, number one in Australia for a few weeks down here. It was at the top of the charts, which is great.
Yes, I'm very, very fortunate to have had such a big hit with that.
Yeah. It's so funny though. Over the years, there's a number of songs that come out, 4 billion trillion songs. That song is one song that I will never turn off if it comes on. It just has that haunting behind it, the music behind it. It's just a story. It's just like I can never turn it off. I absolutely love it.
Oh, well, thank you so much. That means
Mm.
a great deal, even
Yeah.
after all these years.
There you go. Now, they say one of the biggest honors in music, obviously, is winning awards, etc. But the true honor is being parodied by Weird Al Yankovic. So, what was it like when you got that happen for you guys?
That was a great moment for me because it truly is a milestone, I think, for anyone. And he released that as his first single, too. So we were doubly fortunate. Um, I found the video to be totally hilarious. And in fact, we collaborated on a performance in Canada
Awesome.
where he came out in that wig and joined me for the song, and we traded verses. It was really funny.
That's awesome. It's so cool. I have to ask about the process. Do you get contacted to ask if he can do it, or does he just do it and you find out later?
No, Weird Al operates by talking to the artists first. And he doesn't have to, because of course you can cover someone's song and there's nothing illegal about that. All you have to do is pay the person who wrote the song if it gets any play. So he's quite smart. He goes to artists and he says, listen, I want to do your song. How about we split the publishing, my half for the lyrics that I'm going to write, and your half for the music that you've already written. And, it's a great deal
Mm,
and it's great exposure and it's just great.
awesome.
And he's a gem of a guy as well.
Yeah.
And also a fine accordion player. And the
Yeah.
accordion is not an easy instrument to play.
Yeah. Very
He
clever man.
plays the buttons and the keyboard. He's not one of these guys that just plays the keyboard because he knows how to play the piano and squeezes it back and forth. He plays the buttons too. The buttons have the chords on them. And when you got both hands going, it's something else. He can do it.
Love it. Absolutely love that. Now, you mentioned it's been 30 years since God shuffled his feet. I wanted to ask about the experience of working with Jerry Harrison, because Talking Heads were huge in the 80s, and then he produced that record for you. What was that experience like?
Um, that was a great experience. I really enjoyed writing that record and making it. Our first record had hardly any budget and we had hardly any time. And when I listen to it now, I can hear that it's just poorly made. But because we had so much success with it, ironically, in Canada, we were given a much larger budget to work with for our second record. And so we had time to make a good record, and that made all the difference. it's that record I look back at and I think, oh, that's a good record.
Yeah, I spun it again the other day while I was preparing for this, and it just stands up. It's just such a great thing to listen to from start to finish. It's just so enjoyable.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
It means a lot.
Yeah, what I love about you guys is, like I said before, no one sounded like you at the time. There was the cleverness to the songwriting. It really stood out. As a songwriter, what inspires you and allows you to create these kind of songs?
Well, I did a degree in English literature and philosophy before I ever started writing songs. And I found that studying poetry and studying the history of ideas was very conducive towards songwriting, the lyric aspect of it, anyways. And I found myself with writing skills after that experience that I didn't otherwise possess.
Hmm.
So for me, that was a very necessary step in uh, being able to be inspired by anything.
Right. Is that why we get a T.S. Eliot reference in Afternoons and Coffee Spoons?
Yes, it is. You are
Excellent.
correct, Jack.
Absolutely love that. Now, I know you mentioned there was a new song out last year, but with the reunion and everyone sort of being back together, has there been any thought on other new music from the band?
Well, as a matter of fact, we just recorded another new one,
Hmm.
which will be coming out on our so-called best of Crash Test Dummies record.
Yep.
And right now that record is just one record, and we're going to put out a double album. So it'll have some extra tracks on it, including Sacred Alphabet, the one that we released in 2023,
Nice.
and this new one.
Okay. Look forward to that.
And I think that, I'll probably write a song every year, and that maybe I'll put them out together as a group at some point. But I'm not really aiming for that. I'm just aiming for releasing songs, on their own.
Yep.
Every now and then.
That works for me. As long as stuff keeps coming, we'll be happy. Now, let's look back over your career, because it can be very easy to say what can change over a certain amount of time. But what's the one thing that's always remained the same about Crash Test Dummies?
Our lineup.
Mm.
Yeah.
There you go. That's easy.
Same core members that we had years ago.
And it still works.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, that's one way. Now, what's on your list of things to do as a band you haven't yet had the chance to do?
Well, we were once kicked out of China, even though we were supposed to play there.
Okay.
They decided at the last minute to prevent our playing from happening. This was in the 90s when it wasn't as open as it is now.
Yep.
And so I'd like to play China.
Okay. No, that's fair enough. Hey, you got goals. I think that's awesome. And getting back to Australia, obviously that's happening. So, that's kind of cool too.
Yes. Oh, God, yeah.
We can get all the flat whites.
Indeed.
Now, if there was ever to be Sorry, go ahead.
I'm glad you reminded me of the term.
There you go. If there was ever to be a biopic made about the band, what would you want it to be called?
Oh, God, I wouldn't want it to be made. I don't want to be under that kind of scrutiny.
That's funny. You're the first person that said that. All right, we'll just pretend it'll never happen. There's never going to be a Crash Test Dummies biopic. We'll go with that.
Okay.
Now, I'm a big Superman fan, and obviously you had the Superman song back a long time ago. Are you a fan?
That song came out of my experience of reading comics as a child. I didn't continue to read comics as an adult. But that particular issue was when I went to the dentist. My mother, every time I went to the dentist, would let me buy a comic book afterwards as a kind of reward. And I bought this copy that had a story in it about Superman fighting a villain called Solomon Grundy. And Solomon Grundy was a scary character, and he scared the shit out of me as a little kid. And so it left a deep impression, and I ended up writing about it later.
Excellent song. I think it's so much fun. I'm a huge fan. I got Superman tattooed on my leg, so it's kind of like, I love that.
Oh, Right.
Nice. Now, what I do with everyone is I get them to look ahead to the future. So I want you to finish this sentence for me with a prediction. By the end of 2024, Crash Test Dummies will,
Have played in Australia.
by the end of this year?
Finally. By the end of this year, 2024?
Yeah, you're coming next
Oh,
year.
no, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Sorry. By the end of 2024, Crash Test Dummies will have, I forgot what month we were in. By 2024, Crash Test Dummies will have toured the US and toured the UK and toured Europe. We will be very busy folks for the next few months,
That's great.
leading up to our Australian tour in the new year.
Yeah, that's what we're looking forward to. It's going to be a good time.
Yes, I think so too.
Brad, thank you so much for your time, mate. Absolute pleasure. I cannot wait for the show in Sydney. I think it's going to be an absolute ball.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed our interview with Brad Roberts from Crash Test Dummies. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel and check out the website at maytherockbewithyou.com.